An elderly woman sat quietly in her wheelchair, heart heavy with memories she'd thought long lost, until a little foal with a bright red ribbon stepped into her life, reigniting a joy she believed had faded forever. Across town, a troubled veteran battled unseen scars, desperately seeking a second chance. Could one tiny horse truly heal broken hearts and restore forgotten dreams? Discover the extraordinary power of hope, courage, and an unbreakable bond that changes lives forever. Sunlight filtered softly through pale gray clouds, bathing the small town of Cedarville, Montana, in a gentle, muted warmth. Autumn was settling in. Leaves of orange and amber danced lazily through the crisp morning air, scattering across streets and gathering in corners where a faint breeze whispered memories of summer's end. Cedarville, nestled in a wide valley between rolling hills dotted with evergreens and grazing cattle, was a town where life moved at a comfortable pace, unhurried yet quietly vibrant. At the edge of town stood Sunshine Meadows Nursing Home, a charming facility surrounded by gardens that bloomed brightly in warmer months, now slightly faded with the approach of colder days. Inside its cheerful, pastel-colored walls lived Evelyn Whitmore, a petite woman of 79 years whose bright, blue eyes still sparkled with the quiet intelligence and warmth they had carried all her life. Evelyn's hair was short, neat, and silver white, framing her gentle, softly lined face. Her smile, though now rare, held traces of a joyful past, a reminder of days spent galloping freely across Montana's sprawling plains. 15 years prior, a severe riding accident had stolen her ability to walk, placing her permanently into the confines of a wheelchair and dimming the adventurous spirit that once defined her life. Life at Sunshine Meadows was predictably slow, marked only by routine visits from family members and occasional events organized by staff. Evelyn spent her mornings gazing quietly through wide windows overlooking distant hills, remembering the freedom she'd once taken for granted. She lived for visits from her grandson Luke Whitmore, her sole surviving family member, who had recently returned home after serving in Afghanistan. Luke was a tall man in his early 30s, broad-shouldered with a strong, athletic build, his military discipline evident in his posture. Short, sandy brown hair framed a handsome, rugged face marked by faint scars that spoke of more than physical battles. His hazel eyes, often shadowed by memories he rarely shared, carried a mixture of strength, vulnerability, and lingering sadness. His smile, however, still held warmth and sincerity, even if its appearance was increasingly rare. Luke struggled daily with invisible wounds from his time overseas. Sleep eluded him, nightmares relentlessly pulling him back into moments he desperately wished to forget. He'd come home to Cedarville seeking peace, a return to the familiar, but found instead a growing sense of isolation. Visiting his grandmother, however, was one of the few things that gave Luke purpose and a faint sense of normalcy. Their bond was a silent comfort to both, two souls quietly enduring their own battles, yet drawing strength from one another's presence. This particular morning carried an unusual promise, something Evelyn sensed the moment she awoke. The air felt lighter, the room somehow brighter. She wheeled herself into the common area of the nursing home, nodding politely to her fellow residents. Dorothy, always crocheting quietly in the corner, and Bill, whose loud, booming laughter punctuated most conversations. The staff bustled cheerfully, but Evelyn's heart was not in the usual morning routine. Instead, she found herself inexplicably anxious, sensing the possibility of something new. Around 10 o'clock, Evelyn heard familiar footsteps approaching. Luke strode into the room carrying a mysterious, carefully wrapped bundle in his strong arms. He smiled warmly at his grandmother, though his eyes held their customary shadows of fatigue. "Good morning, Grandma," Luke greeted gently, kneeling to her level. Evelyn touched his cheek affectionately, noting the tension in his jaw. "Luke, honey, what have you brought me?" she asked, curiosity blending with a hint of worry. Luke's expression softened, his tired eyes brightening slightly. I have a surprise for you. Something I think might bring a little joy back into your life." With gentle care, Luke carefully unwrapped the bundle, revealing a small, chestnut-brown foal with a striking, brilliant red ribbon tied delicately around its neck. The little horse blinked wide-eyed at its surroundings, ears twitching curiously, legs wobbly yet gracefully poised. Evelyn gasped, her breath catching sharply as emotions surged. Her eyes immediately welled with tears, hand trembling as she reached out tentatively. "Oh, Luke," she whispered, her voice breaking softly. "You remembered." Luke smiled, the shadows in his gaze briefly lifting, replaced by genuine warmth. "Of course, Grandma. You used to tell me stories about your horses, how they made you feel alive. I thought maybe it was time you felt that way again." Evelyn gently stroked the foal's velvety nose, marveling at the softness beneath her fingertips. The tiny creature sniffed curiously, nuzzling Evelyn's hand with immediate, innocent trust. Evelyn laughed softly, the sound bubbling up freely for the first time in many years. The joyful noise startled even herself. She realized suddenly how long it had been since genuine happiness had touched her heart. Luke stood silently watching, relief easing the perpetual tightness in his chest. He'd struggled with the idea of gifting Evelyn something so unconventional, fearing judgment from the facility and from Evelyn herself. Yet seeing the transformation in her expression, the sparkle rekindled in her eyes, reassured him profoundly. "You'll need to name him," Luke encouraged gently, sensing his grandmother's mind already racing with memories and possibilities. Evelyn smiled through tears, thoughtfully gazing at the foal's glossy, cinnamon-colored coat. "Cinnamon," she announced warmly. "His name is Cinnamon." At that moment, Rebecca Harris, the nursing home's activities coordinator, approached hesitantly. Rebecca was a tall, slender woman in her mid-40s with tightly pulled-back auburn hair, her face often pinched in worry, yet kind at heart. Though generally cautious and practical, she seemed captivated by the unusual visitor. "Luke, Evelyn, this is certainly unexpected. Will this little fellow be staying?" Luke met Rebecca's concerned gaze confidently. "I think Cinnamon could be very good for Grandma and the other residents. Animal therapy can do wonders, and I'll take full responsibility. I'll visit daily to help care for him." Rebecca hesitated, glancing at Evelyn's radiant smile and Cinnamon's gentle demeanor. Finally, she sighed softly and smiled, nodding her cautious approval. "Very well. We'll see how it goes." As word spread throughout Sunshine Meadows, residents and staff members gradually gathered, marveling at the tiny visitor. The morning turned unexpectedly festive. Cinnamon basked in the affectionate attention, occasionally offering tentative nuzzles in return. Evelyn, deeply moved, watched quietly. Understanding this foal symbolized more than companionship. It marked the potential renewal of the joy and freedom she'd thought long lost. Luke stood aside, quietly observing. Cinnamon's acceptance gave him hope. Perhaps, just as the foal ignited his grandmother's spirit, he too might eventually find healing for himself. Despite the challenges he knew were coming, for the first time since returning home, Luke felt a glimmer of genuine optimism. As the morning drifted toward noon, Evelyn continued gently petting Cinnamon, surrounded by laughter and warmth she'd dearly missed. Outside, the soft gray clouds began to part, giving way to brighter sunlight that poured gently into the common room. Cedarville, it seemed, was also embracing this new arrival, signaling the start of unexpected changes and healing, one small hoof step at a time. In the days following Cinnamon's arrival at Sunshine Meadows, a newfound liveliness filled the corridors of the quiet nursing home. Evelyn Whitmore watched with joy as her tiny companion quickly became the beloved centerpiece of life at the facility. Cinnamon, the young foal with a coat the soft color of sweet cinnamon, had an infectious curiosity. With wide, gentle eyes and dainty legs still wobbly from youth, he trotted around with a cheerful innocence, bringing laughter and conversation back into the residents' daily routine. Even Dorothy, whose fingers usually moved only to crochet blankets, now found herself reaching out to gently stroke Cinnamon's velvet-soft mane, her eyes crinkling warmly with delight. Bill's booming laugh echoed more often, sparked by Cinnamon's playful antics and clumsy exploration. Despite the positive atmosphere, Gregory Moore, the stern and practical director of Sunshine Meadows, observed Cinnamon's integration with cautious skepticism. Gregory was a tall, thin man in his early 60s, impeccably dressed, with neatly combed gray hair and thin-framed glasses perched firmly on a sharp nose. His meticulous nature left little room for exceptions to rules, and Cinnamon represented exactly that, an unprecedented and potentially problematic exception. Gregory's greatest concern was hygiene and safety. He firmly believed animals belonged outside, not mingling closely with elderly residents whose health and mobility could be compromised. One crisp morning, Gregory summoned Evelyn to his office, his expression somber. "Mrs. Whitmore," he began, voice measured yet noticeably strained, "while I appreciate the uniqueness of Cinnamon's presence, I must voice my concern. Animals can create considerable hazards, health-wise and otherwise. Frankly, this is highly unconventional and risky." Evelyn listened patiently, her small frame steady in the wheelchair, blue eyes clear and resolute. "Mr. Moore," she responded gently but firmly, "I understand your concerns, but Cinnamon isn't just a pet. He's therapy, comfort. The smiles he's brought to people who've been lonely or forgotten. That's worth something." Gregory sighed heavily, nodding stiffly. "I'll give a little more time, but please remember this is conditional. Any incident, any trouble, will change things swiftly." Determined to prove Cinnamon's value, Evelyn enlisted Luke's help. Luke gladly obliged, grateful for something productive to distract him from his lingering trauma. Yet, despite Cinnamon's calming presence, Luke was increasingly aware of his internal struggles. Finally recognizing he couldn't tackle his PTSD alone, he sought out professional help. On a chilly Tuesday afternoon, Luke nervously stepped into the cozy office of Dr. Annie Blake, a psychologist who had recently opened a modest practice in Cedarville. Annie was in her late 20s, petite with expressive, compassionate green eyes, framed by shoulder-length chestnut hair loosely tied back. Her demeanor radiated calm reassurance, balanced by an innate ability to make people feel understood. She greeted Luke with a soft smile, guiding him gently to an armchair. Sensing his hesitance, she began their session carefully, easing into conversation with skillful grace. Luke initially offered few details, speaking softly about general anxiety and sleepless nights. But Annie noticed the tension in his posture, the way his gaze shifted uncomfortably when certain topics arose. "Tell me about your recent life," she prompted gently, her voice soft yet encouraging. Gradually, Luke revealed more, speaking hesitantly about returning from Afghanistan and the frequent nightmares that tore him from sleep. Annie listened intently, absorbing each word with patience and care. During their session, Luke also spoke warmly of Evelyn and Cinnamon. Annie noticed the faint light that flickered in his eyes as he talked about the foal, prompting her to inquire gently, "Why do you think Cinnamon's arrival has impacted you both so deeply?" Luke hesitated briefly, gathering his thoughts. "Because Cinnamon gave Grandma a reason to live fully again. And maybe," his voice lowered, "he reminded me that life isn't just about survival. There's hope. I saw it in her eyes." Annie nodded thoughtfully, jotting down a few notes. She felt deep empathy for Luke, touched by his honesty and resilience. Their conversation planted seeds of trust and understanding, quietly suggesting the potential of deeper emotional healing for Luke. Back at Sunshine Meadows, Evelyn began planning simple yet meaningful activities centered around Cinnamon. She encouraged other residents to participate, finding Cinnamon eager to interact. Dorothy began knitting colorful scarves for the foal, and Bill enthusiastically crafted small wooden plaques with Cinnamon's name, proudly displayed around the nursing home. Their interactions became a beacon of joy, gathering curious visitors from neighboring areas eager to witness the miracle foal firsthand. However, Trouble briefly arose when Cinnamon accidentally wandered into Gregory's meticulously maintained garden, nibbling enthusiastically on his prized petunias. Gregory was livid, his usually pale cheeks reddening deeply as he approached Evelyn. "This is exactly what I feared," he declared sharply, anger barely contained. "The foal is becoming disruptive." Evelyn remained composed, gently smiling. "I'm truly sorry, Gregory. Let me fix this," she insisted softly, sincerely. The calm dignity in Evelyn's voice momentarily deflated Gregory's outrage, and he reluctantly stepped back, allowing her to take charge. With Luke's assistance, Evelyn guided Cinnamon carefully away, comforting the skittish foal while promising Gregory she'd personally supervise him more closely. Evelyn and Luke spent the afternoon quietly repairing the garden, planting fresh petunias to replace the damage, demonstrating her genuine commitment to maintaining peace and order. In the weeks following, Evelyn established clear boundaries and routines for Cinnamon. He quickly adapted, learning to stay away from sensitive areas, yet continuing to offer playful companionship. Eventually, even Gregory noticed how the residence brightened in Cinnamon's presence. His stance gradually softened, acknowledging, though still privately, the foal's undeniable positive impact. Luke continued his sessions with Annie, finding surprising comfort in her steady presence. Each session offered incremental improvement, gradually loosening the grip of past horrors. Their discussions about Evelyn and Cinnamon often provided subtle metaphors about healing, indirectly guiding Luke toward clarity and acceptance. Annie admired Luke's courage deeply, recognizing the strength required to face invisible wounds, silently promising herself to support him fully on this difficult journey. As autumn's chill deepened and the days shortened, life at Sunshine Meadows transformed. Laughter echoed regularly through corridors previously marked by silence. Residents, staff, and even visitors warmly embraced Cinnamon, now affectionately nicknamed Little Cinnamon by everyone around. The tiny foal became a cherished mascot, a symbol of unexpected joy and renewed life. One evening, as Luke was leaving a session with Annie, she gently stopped him, offering softly, "You're doing really well, Luke. Remember, healing isn't linear, but you're not alone. Never forget that." Her words lingered with Luke, providing comfort he hadn't realized he needed. He left her office feeling lighter, recognizing the first small steps toward genuine recovery. Meanwhile, Evelyn sat quietly beside Cinnamon, stroking his silky mane under fading daylight. Looking into the foal's gentle eyes, she whispered softly, "You've brought hope, Little Cinnamon. Not just to me, but to everyone here." As if understanding, Cinnamon leaned his small head gently against her shoulder, a silent promise of friendship, trust, and brighter days ahead. The morning sun rose reluctantly over Cedarville, its pale, hesitant rays creeping across fields dampened by early frost. Autumn had tightened its grip, the once vibrant foliage turning brittle beneath an increasingly chill wind. Sunshine Meadows Nursing Home was quiet in the stillness of dawn, residents slowly waking to routines comfortably predictable, until a sudden commotion shattered their peace. Evelyn Whitmore sat upright in her bed, heart pounding, awakened by frantic shouting echoing through the hallways. Quickly dressing in her soft wool cardigan and beige slacks, she wheeled herself hurriedly toward the noise. In the hallway, caregivers hurried past, their usually cheerful faces now tense with worry. Rebecca Harris, the nursing home's coordinator, stopped abruptly beside Evelyn, her auburn hair escaping its usual neat bun, panic evident in her wide eyes. "Evelyn, have you seen Cinnamon? He's gone." Evelyn's pulse quickened in fear. Cinnamon, the lively foal who had brought such joy to everyone, had vanished, presumably slipping through a gate left accidentally ajar by maintenance workers. Fear gnawed at her heart. The thought of losing Cinnamon was unbearable. As news spread, the entire home buzzed with worried whispers and hurried preparations for a search. Gregory Moore, the stern director, his suit jacket hastily buttoned, barked orders, his usual composure replaced with frazzled irritation. Residents clustered anxiously, all realizing how deeply attached they'd grown to Cinnamon. Dorothy clutched a knitted scarf meant for the foal, tears forming silently in her gentle eyes. Bill paced uncomfortably, his large frame trembling slightly, desperately trying to remain calm. Evelyn wheeled to the home's front porch, eyes scanning the distant woods edging the property, her stomach churning with dread. Luke Whitmore arrived moments later, summoned urgently by staff. Despite his typically composed demeanor, worry shadowed his rugged features. Luke immediately took control, his military training evident in the authority and calmness he projected. He divided volunteers into teams, assigning search areas systematically. Gregory reluctantly accepted Luke's leadership, recognizing the competence he displayed, stepping back quietly, impressed yet reluctant to admit it openly. Among the volunteers stood Annie Blake, the young psychologist who had been counseling Luke. Annie was petite, her chestnut hair loosely braided over her shoulder, eyes keen and attentive beneath a knitted cap. She approached Luke gently, noticing his tense jaw and restless gaze. "Luke," Annie spoke softly, placing a reassuring hand briefly on his arm. "I'll help. Cinnamon means a lot to Evelyn, and to you." Luke met her eyes briefly, gratitude visible beneath his usual guardedness, nodding solemnly. "Thank you, Annie." Their gaze lingered a second longer, a subtle warmth passing between them. Then Luke led his team toward the dense forest, eyes vigilant, his thoughts a mix of worry and determination. Evelyn remained anxiously near the entrance, accompanied by Dorothy, Bill, and several residents. Their quiet vigil felt endless, worry deepening with each passing minute. Dorothy's gentle voice broke the silence, shaky yet comforting. "Cinnamon will be fine. He's brave and smart." Evelyn managed a faint smile, touched by Dorothy's attempt to soothe her fear. Hours dragged painfully. Shadows lengthened across the nursing home's grounds as the sky darkened with gathering clouds. Evelyn's fingers tightened nervously around her wheelchair's armrests. Suddenly, a voice rang clearly from the edge of the nearby woods. Luke appeared, clothes slightly muddy, Cinnamon beside him, coat damp but unharmed, eyes wide and curious. Relief surged through Evelyn as Luke led Cinnamon gently forward. Residents erupted in cheers, joyful tears streaming freely. Cinnamon trotted happily to Evelyn, nuzzling her lovingly. "Luke, you found him," Evelyn whispered, her voice choked with emotion. Luke smiled softly, his eyes warm despite obvious exhaustion. He was grazing near Mill Creek, perfectly safe. Annie approached quietly, standing near Luke, watching his interactions with Evelyn and Cinnamon. Luke's confident leadership today had deepened her respect for him, revealing strength beneath his outward struggles. Evelyn glanced knowingly between Luke and Annie, a faint smile crossing her lips. After the search concluded, Luke offered Annie a ride home. During their quiet drive, Annie softly broke the silence. "You were remarkable today, Luke. Calm, confident, decisive. Have you always been that way?" Luke hesitated, glancing briefly at her earnest expression. "Not always," he admitted softly. "I've struggled. In Afghanistan, responsibility felt overwhelming. Today, it reminded me that maybe I'm still capable." Annie listened intently, sensing Luke's vulnerability. Gently, she urged him further. "Your past doesn't have to define you forever. Today, you showed everyone, and yourself, that you're stronger than you think." Luke considered Annie's words silently, heart swelling slightly with gratitude and unexpected hope. They reached Annie's modest home, warmly lit against the descending evening darkness. Before stepping from the vehicle, Annie gently squeezed Luke's hand reassuringly. "Don't carry your burdens alone. I'm here for you, Luke, professionally and personally. Let yourself heal." Luke nodded slowly, genuinely moved by Annie's compassion, watching as she disappeared into her home, feeling lighter, understood, perhaps even optimistic. At Sunshine Meadows, Evelyn sat quietly stroking Cinnamon's mane, deeply relieved yet contemplating the day's events. Dorothy, Bill, and others remained close, their earlier panic replaced by joy and closeness. Gregory, usually distant and formal, approached slowly, clearing his throat awkwardly. "Mrs. Whitmore," he began stiffly, "I suppose today's events prove Cinnamon's importance, though he's certainly caused quite a disruption." Evelyn looked up, a soft smile forming. "He did, Mr. Moore, but maybe disruptions aren't always bad." Gregory nodded stiffly, lips twitching faintly in grudging amusement. "Perhaps you're right." Evelyn chuckled gently, returning attention lovingly to Cinnamon. Today's trial had reaffirmed not only Cinnamon's significance, but also the strength of community among Sunshine Meadows residents and staff. Late that night, Evelyn gazed thoughtfully out her window at the quiet grounds illuminated faintly by moonlight. Cinnamon slept peacefully nearby, exhausted yet safe. She thought about Luke and Annie's connection. Please, her grandson might finally begin to heal. Today, despite its difficulties, had ultimately revealed deeper truths: friendship, community strength, and renewed hope. Evelyn understood clearly now. Cinnamon had become more than just a therapy animal. He symbolized hope, unity, and the unexpected strength each person possessed. Tomorrow, challenges would undoubtedly continue, but tonight Evelyn allowed herself quiet gratitude for trials overcome, friendships deepened, and joy rediscovered. She closed her eyes, peaceful at last, knowing their bonds, both human and animal, had become stronger, ready to face whatever future days might bring. After Cinnamon's brief escape, tensions quietly simmered beneath the surface at Sunshine Meadows. Evelyn Whitmore, now deeply bonded with the young foal, spent countless hours each day watching over him, ensuring his safety. Cinnamon, sensing the previous anxiety, stuck closer to Evelyn, nudging her gently whenever she seemed lost in thought. Yet despite the returned peace, Gregory Moore's unease lingered, festering quietly behind his usually neutral facade. A week after Cinnamon's incident, Gregory summoned Evelyn to his office, a space meticulously neat, reflecting his rigid personality. Sitting stiffly behind his mahogany desk, fingers steepled, Gregory regarded Evelyn solemnly through thin spectacles. His voice carried a forced gentleness, masking deeper resolution. "Mrs. Whitmore," he began slowly, "I've carefully considered recent events. Cinnamon, delightful as he may be, is simply not suitable for our facility long-term. His presence poses ongoing risks." Evelyn felt her chest tighten painfully. Gregory's decision reopened old wounds of loss she'd worked hard to heal. Her frail hands gripped her wheelchair tightly, trying to remain composed. "Mr. Moore," Evelyn pleaded softly, blue eyes brimming with suppressed tears, "Cinnamon brings life here. Can't you see how important he's become?" Gregory sighed softly, regret flickering momentarily across his typically stern face. "I'm sorry, Evelyn, but my decision is final. Cinnamon must return to Luke's farm by week's end." Heartbroken, Evelyn returned to her room, seeking solace by gently stroking Cinnamon's silky coat. Her sorrow was palpable, the glow once reignited in her eyes, quickly fading into quiet despair. That afternoon, Luke Whitmore arrived, immediately sensing Evelyn's grief. Seeing her fragile figure hunched sadly, Luke felt protective anger stirring deep within. "Grandma," Luke murmured gently, kneeling beside her chair, placing a comforting hand over hers. "What happened?" Evelyn explained Gregory's decision softly, each word breaking Luke's heart further. Determination flashed in Luke's eyes, his strong jaw tightening. He reassured Evelyn resolutely, "This isn't over. Cinnamon belongs here, Grandma. We won't let this happen easily." Luke immediately sought Annie Blake's counsel, meeting her in her warm, modest office adorned simply with comforting decor. Annie listened quietly, compassion softening her expressive features. Though deeply empathetic, she knew Gregory's practicality demanded clear evidence and strong community support. She suggested organizing a town meeting, allowing residents and locals to openly express Cinnamon's therapeutic benefits, hoping to sway Gregory through community solidarity. Luke eagerly agreed, grateful for Annie's clear-headed guidance. Over the next days, Luke and Annie collaborated closely, gathering residents' heartfelt testimonials. The pair moved seamlessly together, mutual respect and quiet affection evident to everyone around them. Yet beneath Luke's outward calmness, anxiety and unresolved trauma lingered dangerously close. As preparations intensified, Luke's PTSD symptoms unexpectedly worsened. Nightmares resurfaced violently, dragging him nightly into the harrowing memories he desperately wished to forget. One particularly vivid nightmare jolted Luke awake, drenched in sweat, heart pounding violently. Terrified, he withdrew, isolating himself, fearing burdening Annie further. Annie quickly sensed Luke's withdrawal. Approaching him gently after preparations one afternoon, concern clearly etched on her face, Annie spoke softly. "Luke, talk to me. Please don't face this alone." Luke, eyes shadowed, shook his head slowly, struggling to articulate his fears. "Annie, it's complicated. My nightmares, they're back. I can't put you through that," he admitted bitterly, frustration evident in his tense shoulders. Annie, patient yet firm, placed a comforting hand gently against his arm, her eyes tender yet resolute. "Luke, don't shut me out. You've made progress. You can't give up now." Luke, conflicted and hurting, gently pulled away. "I just need time, Annie," he murmured quietly, guilt clear in his expression. Annie nodded slowly, heart aching, respecting his need, yet silently resolving to remain steadfastly supportive. Meanwhile, news of Gregory's decision quickly spread throughout Sunshine Meadows, sparking collective outrage among residents. Dorothy, usually quiet and gentle, now expressed passionate disapproval, organizing a petition urging Cinnamon's stay. Bill, driven by protective instinct toward Evelyn and the little foal, loudly rallied others, his hearty voice resonating determinately through corridors. Evelyn, encouraged by residents' unwavering solidarity, found renewed strength within. Though still fragile, determination hardened her resolve. Gregory's rigid position faced mounting resistance. The unity among residents, led passionately by Evelyn and Luke, began chipping away at his practical objections. On a crisp Friday evening, a community meeting convened inside the nursing home's main hall, warmly lit, buzzing with anticipation. Residents, staff, townspeople, and even Gregory himself gathered quietly. Luke, despite his emotional turmoil, confidently took charge, guiding proceedings calmly. Annie, seated discreetly nearby, offered supportive smiles, her presence quietly encouraging Luke. Residents shared emotional stories, passionately articulating Cinnamon's profound therapeutic impact. Dorothy, voice trembling slightly, described Cinnamon as a spark of life we've desperately missed. Bill's booming voice echoed powerfully, calling Cinnamon family, and emphasizing how deeply residents had bonded with him. Finally, Evelyn addressed everyone, voice soft yet firm, eyes shining determinedly. "Cinnamon isn't just an animal. He restored our joy, hope, and purpose. Please don't take that away." Evelyn's gentle plea resonated profoundly, silence briefly lingering as her heartfelt words settled deeply into everyone's consciousness. Luke briefly caught Annie's eyes, feeling strengthened by her quiet encouragement. Gregory, visibly moved despite attempts at neutral expression, stood hesitantly. Clearing his throat awkwardly, he acknowledged quietly, "Your arguments are compelling. Perhaps I've underestimated Cinnamon's significance here." Gregory paused, scanning assembled faces thoughtfully. "Though concerns remain, I'll reconsider my decision. Let's give Cinnamon another chance," he concluded, nodding firmly. Cheers erupted spontaneously, warmth and relief filling the room. Evelyn smiled gratefully, tears of relief and happiness streaming gently down her cheeks. Luke relaxed visibly, exchanging an understanding glance with Annie, silently expressing deep gratitude for her unwavering support. Afterward, Luke and Annie briefly spoke privately, lingering affection and unresolved tension evident. Annie softly reassured Luke, "I'm still here, whenever you're ready." Luke nodded gratefully, resolving internally to face his past openly, confident Annie would patiently await him. Late that night, Evelyn stroked Cinnamon gently, whispering softly into the stillness, "You're staying, little one. You've truly found your home." Cinnamon, sensing Evelyn's gentle relief, nuzzled affectionately closer, signaling contentment. Evelyn's heart swelled gratefully, acknowledging their community's united strength, overcoming obstacles through shared resilience, friendship, and determination. Despite lingering uncertainties, hope shone brightly once more at Sunshine Meadows, illuminated brilliantly through community solidarity and Evelyn's steadfast faith in Cinnamon's special presence. Winter gradually tightened its grip around Cedarville, Montana, transforming fields into pale blankets of snow beneath a sky of steel-gray clouds. Sunshine Meadows Nursing Home was blanketed in soft whiteness, icicles glittering delicately from the edges of its cozy rooftops. Yet despite winter's chill, warmth flourished within, carried on gentle laughter and quiet murmurs of encouragement that had become commonplace thanks to one small foal named Cinnamon. Evelyn Whitmore, whose eyes once seemed dimmed by loneliness, now glowed with rekindled purpose. Each morning found Evelyn diligently tending to Cinnamon's needs, feeding him fresh hay, brushing his chestnut coat meticulously, murmuring soothing words into his velvet ears. Cinnamon responded with tender affection, nuzzling Evelyn's silver-white hair softly, trusting implicitly the woman whose care defined his world. As days passed, Evelyn felt her strength quietly return, inspired by Cinnamon's vitality. One morning, driven by newfound resolve, Evelyn carefully positioned her wheelchair near Cinnamon. Taking a steadying breath, she cautiously stood, legs trembling yet determined beneath her. Cinnamon gazed curiously, ears twitching slightly, as Evelyn, gripping his halter gently, took her first tentative step. Encouraged by her companion's calm steadiness, she moved forward slowly, heart pounding fiercely with pride. Witnessing Evelyn's astonishing achievement, Dorothy gasped softly, eyes widening behind her knitting. Quickly summoning other residents, Dorothy's excitement spread rapidly. Soon, an awed crowd gathered, residents cheering softly, encouraging Evelyn's brave steps. Gregory Moore, observing from a discreet distance, allowed a rare, quiet smile of admiration to cross his typically stern face, finally acknowledging Cinnamon's transformative power. Evelyn's determination ignited a quiet revolution within Sunshine Meadows, prompting residents to confront their own fears. Dorothy, typically shy and hesitant, began openly socializing, proudly displaying her knitted creations. Bill, whose mobility had been limited by chronic arthritis, began cautiously attending physical therapy, motivated by Evelyn's inspiring bravery. Cinnamon, unaware yet profoundly impactful, had become a symbol of hope, determination, and quiet strength for everyone. Meanwhile, Luke Whitmore, haunted by the traumatic nightmares that had driven him away from Annie Blake, spent weeks in quiet reflection at his secluded farm. Solitude provided temporary peace, but deepened Luke's loneliness. One snowy afternoon, watching flakes drift silently across barren fields, Luke felt profound emptiness. Cinnamon's joyful spirit and Evelyn's determination played repeatedly through his mind, highlighting his own retreat. Understanding that avoidance couldn't heal his pain, Luke decided resolutely to return to Annie. Nervously arriving at Annie's cozy office, Luke hesitated briefly outside, pulse quickening anxiously. Gathering courage, he stepped inside, warmth enveloping him gently as Annie greeted him quietly, compassion evident in her gentle green eyes. Annie, petite and reassuringly calm, guided Luke gently to comfortable chairs near a softly crackling fireplace, patiently waiting for him to speak. Luke took a deep breath, hazel eyes clouded by pain, yet resolve clear. "Annie," he began softly, voice thick with emotion, "I'm sorry for withdrawing. My nightmares returned viciously, and I panicked, shutting everyone out, especially you." Annie listened quietly, nodding understandingly, her steady presence encouraging Luke's honesty. Luke continued carefully, voice shaking slightly. "I thought isolation would protect you from my struggles, but only deepen my loneliness. I realize now, I can't face this alone. I need help. Your help, Annie." Annie's expression softened warmly, her eyes reflecting deep empathy. Reaching gently, she took Luke's trembling hand in hers, voice reassuringly calm. "Luke, you never needed to face this alone. I'm here, ready to walk this path alongside you, however difficult it becomes." Her simple, heartfelt acceptance brought immense relief, melting Luke's guarded defenses. Hours passed as Luke openly shared traumatic memories, losses of comrades, haunting moments of helplessness and fear. Annie patiently listened, offering quiet reassurance, gently guiding Luke toward recognizing his strength in confronting vulnerability. By evening, Luke felt genuinely lighter, burdens slightly eased through heartfelt openness and Annie's unwavering compassion. Promising regular sessions, Luke departed gratefully, hopeful about healing possibilities ahead. At Sunshine Meadows, Evelyn's inspiring progress continued profoundly impacting everyone. Gregory Moore, softening significantly, regularly allowed residents closer interactions with Cinnamon. Encouraged by Evelyn, Gregory even approved weekly therapeutic walks alongside Cinnamon through snow-dusted gardens, helping residents strengthen both physically and emotionally. New staff member Heather Mason, a cheerful and enthusiastic woman in her late 20s, joined Sunshine Meadows shortly thereafter. Heather, energetic with curly blonde hair and sparkling blue eyes, quickly embraced Cinnamon's presence, eagerly supporting Evelyn's ongoing recovery. Heather's bubbly personality and genuine kindness further brightened Sunshine Meadows, complementing Evelyn's quiet, inspiring leadership. One morning, Heather suggested organizing a small winter festival celebrating residents' newfound achievements and Cinnamon's presence. Enthusiasm quickly spread among staff and residents. Gregory, though initially hesitant, readily approved Heather's proposal, acknowledging Cinnamon's valuable role openly for the first time. Festival preparations soon began joyfully, residents eagerly crafting decorations, Dorothy knitting special scarves, Bill cheerfully supervising logistics despite mobility challenges. Evelyn, deeply moved by collective excitement, felt profoundly grateful towards Cinnamon and Luke, recognizing the transformative impact both had made. Cinnamon's gentle nature continued inspiring residents courageously facing personal limits, strengthening community bonds immensely. Luke, regularly visiting Evelyn now, witnessed firsthand the remarkable emotional transformations occurring at Sunshine Meadows. He felt immensely proud, recognizing Cinnamon's quiet strength resonated deeply within himself. Cinnamon, Evelyn, and Annie collectively represented hope, courage, and unwavering support, qualities Luke deeply yearned to embody fully. Luke's determination solidified further, inspired by Evelyn's courageous progress and his reconnection with Annie's steadfast compassion. As the winter festival approached, Evelyn's confidence continued blossoming remarkably. Each day saw her walking slightly farther alongside Cinnamon, residents and staff regularly celebrating her steady improvement. Evelyn's spirit shone vibrantly, motivating others toward courageously confronting their limitations. Even Gregory publicly acknowledged Evelyn's inspiring leadership, speaking openly about his initial skepticism and newfound admiration during staff meetings. Cinnamon, unintentionally impactful yet deeply loved, represented hope, courage, resilience, values uniting Sunshine Meadows profoundly. Evelyn realized quietly that Cinnamon had genuinely saved her, not only physically but emotionally, giving back strength long believed lost. Cinnamon's unwavering companionship had revitalized Evelyn profoundly, helping her courageously overcome physical and emotional barriers previously dauntingly intimidating. Luke likewise recognized significant emotional progress, thanks primarily to Annie's compassionate guidance and unwavering support. Their connection, strengthened profoundly through shared honesty and understanding, represented hope-filled possibilities Luke now eagerly embraced. Evelyn, Luke, Annie, Cinnamon, Dorothy, Bill, and even Gregory Moore represented Cedarville's collective resilience, determination, community spirit, and quiet strength. Sunshine Meadows Nursing Home had become genuinely transformed, filled vibrantly with laughter, hope, friendship, and renewed purpose, thanks largely to one small foal's gentle spirit profoundly impacting everyone's lives. Evelyn smiled contentedly, gently stroking Cinnamon's soft coat, recognizing fully the remarkable transformations surrounding her daily. Quiet gratitude filled her heart warmly, acknowledging Cinnamon's profound impact not only individually but collectively, uniting everyone deeply through shared courage, compassion, resilience, and unwavering hope. The day of the winter festival arrived crisp and clear, a golden sunlight filtering through the silvery veil of clouds, warming the snowy fields of Cedarville. Sunshine Meadows Nursing Home bustled joyfully as residents, caregivers, and townspeople decorated the main hall with colorful banners, shimmering garlands, and twinkling lights. Heather Mason, the vivacious new staff member with bouncing golden curls and eyes sparkling with enthusiasm, directed preparations energetically. She encouraged everyone with genuine warmth and positivity, lifting spirits wherever she moved. Evelyn Whitmore observed quietly, seated comfortably in her wheelchair near Cinnamon. Her elegant silver hair was brushed neatly, eyes reflecting both excitement and nervous anticipation. Evelyn wore a soft blue dress, knitted scarf from Dorothy gently draped around her neck. Cinnamon stood attentively by her side, his sleek chestnut coat gleaming beneath the bright lights, an elegant red ribbon tied carefully around his neck, symbolizing hope and renewal. As guests arrived, families, friends, Cedarville's local business owners, Sunshine Meadows filled quickly with laughter, chatter, and shared memories. Gregory Moore, typically reserved and formal, warmly welcomed attendees, quietly proud of the nursing home's transformation. Evelyn noticed with gentle amusement Gregory's rare, uncharacteristically relaxed smile as he interacted comfortably with townspeople. Residents gathered excitedly, Dorothy proudly displaying knitted items at her small booth, greeting visitors warmly. Bill sat comfortably nearby, humorously recounting recent events involving Cinnamon to gathered listeners, hearty laughter erupting frequently around him. Evelyn smiled softly, heart swelling with quiet gratitude, observing everyone's sincere joy. At precisely 11 o'clock, Heather gently called for attention, cheerful voice easily quieting the crowd. Standing beside her was Luke Whitmore, tall, strong, shoulders squared confidently beneath his warm winter coat, expression deeply calm and determined. Beside Luke stood Annie Blake, petite yet radiating warmth, her gentle green eyes sparkling affectionately at Luke, chestnut hair falling softly over her shoulders. Luke stepped forward calmly, voice steady, warmly resonating through the hall. Today, we gather celebrating friendship, courage, community strength, and especially one special foal named Cinnamon, whose gentle spirit profoundly touched each heart present. Luke's sincere words inspired applause immediately. Quietly, Luke glanced toward Evelyn, smiling gently before continuing. But first, Evelyn Whitmore wishes to speak, sharing something remarkable with everyone. Silence briefly filled the hall, anticipation palpable, as Evelyn took a deep, steadying breath. Gripping Cinnamon's soft leather halter tightly, she summoned all courage within, slowly standing from her wheelchair, legs trembling slightly, yet resolute. Cinnamon steadied gently beside Evelyn, patiently providing quiet support. Everyone watched in awe-filled silence as Evelyn took careful steps forward, moving slowly yet steadily beside Cinnamon. Tears of pride, joy, amazement glistened warmly throughout gathered faces, witnessing Evelyn's astonishing courage. Dorothy clapped quietly, tears streaming silently down her gentle face. Bill shouted encouragingly, voice booming joyfully above quiet murmurs. Evelyn paused carefully after several steps, catching breath gently, eyes glowing vibrantly, warmly addressing everyone. Cinnamon's presence reminded me, we're stronger than imagined, more capable than believed. Cinnamon taught resilience, compassion, courage. He helped each of us reclaim strength long forgotten. Today, I declare Cinnamon remains forever part of Sunshine Meadows family, symbolizing courage, community spirit, enduring hope. Thunderous applause erupted enthusiastically, cheers joyfully echoing throughout halls. Gregory, smiling genuinely, nodded approvingly, fully accepting Cinnamon's permanent presence warmly. Evelyn gently stroked Cinnamon affectionately, deeply grateful toward her small companion. Quietly, she whispered, "You truly changed our lives, little one. Thank you." During festivities, Luke and Annie quietly stepped aside briefly, sharing affectionate smiles beneath soft winter sunlight filtering through large windows. Luke spoke softly, eyes sincere, voice gentle yet steady. "Annie, your patience, compassion, your unwavering belief helped heal wounds once believed permanent. With you, I finally found peace." Annie listened tenderly, eyes misted gently, heart profoundly moved. Smiling warmly, she responded softly, "Luke, your strength inspired me deeply. Your courage, openness profoundly touched me. Together, we'll continue healing, supporting others similarly wounded. Let's commit helping veterans struggling silently within our community." Luke's smile broadened warmly, relief evident within his gentle eyes, nodding decisively, openly taking Annie's hand lovingly, confidently stepping together back into joyous celebrations. Throughout festivities, Luke and Annie comfortably interacted, affection clearly evident, quietly acknowledged approvingly by Evelyn, Dorothy, Bill, and Gregory. Sunshine Meadows warmly celebrated newfound joy, shared courage, community bonds strengthened deeply by Cinnamon's transformative presence. Later, guests departed gradually, warmth, joy lingering within halls long afterward. Gregory privately approached Evelyn, quietly admitting, "Mrs. Whitmore, your quiet strength, Cinnamon's gentle presence transformed Sunshine Meadows profoundly, positively, far beyond initial skepticism imagined. Thank you sincerely." Evelyn smiled gently, deeply moved by Gregory's sincere words, quietly replying, "Thank you, Gregory, for believing, finally understanding Cinnamon's value." Gregory nodded respectfully, smiling softly before quietly withdrawing, leaving Evelyn alone with Cinnamon, peaceful contentment surrounding warmly. As evening approached, residents gathered comfortably near the nursing home's fireplace, sharing reflections quietly beneath soft firelight. Evelyn, seated comfortably nearby Cinnamon, quietly summarized everyone's shared sentiment, gently voicing, "This festival symbolized hope, resilience, friendship, qualities defining Sunshine Meadows deeply, thanks primarily to Cinnamon. Together, we've overcome challenges bravely, rediscovering strength forgotten within ourselves." Residents nodded warmly, quietly agreeing sincerely, Dorothy gently adding, "Cinnamon truly changed each life profoundly, restoring lost hope, courage, unity beautifully." Bill chuckled heartily, concluding warmly, "That little foal indeed worked genuine miracles among us." Laughter rippled warmly, heartfelt agreement clearly evident. Evelyn smiled gently, recognizing truth profoundly within shared words, quietly stroking Cinnamon affectionately beside her. Cinnamon, peaceful, contentedly leaned gently against Evelyn, quietly symbolizing profound unity, hope, courage permanently embedded within Sunshine Meadows Nursing Home. Luke and Annie later departed, quietly holding hands affectionately beneath softly falling snowflakes, hearts peacefully content, hopeful futures stretching promisingly ahead. Luke silently promised ongoing commitment, supporting veterans similarly struggling. Profoundly grateful Annie stood unwaveringly beside him. Evelyn quietly watched Luke and Annie disappearing gently beneath softly illuminated street lamps, heart deeply comforted, peaceful understanding filling her warmly. Love, courage, hope had genuinely triumphed profoundly within Cedarville's close-knit community, beautifully symbolized by Cinnamon's vibrant red ribbon, forever reminding resilience. Community bonds strengthened permanently. Joy rediscovered lovingly within hearts profoundly touched by one small foal's gentle spirit. This beautiful story of Evelyn, Cinnamon, Luke, and Annie reminds us that sometimes all we need is a little courage, compassion, and community to rediscover the joy and hope hidden within our hearts. Each of us has our own struggles, yet through kindness and connection, we can overcome even our greatest challenges. May you always find strength and inspiration in life's unexpected friendships, just as Evelyn found courage in Cinnamon's gentle spirit. If this story touched your heart, please share it with someone who could use a little encouragement today. Don't forget to comment below with an amen if you believe in the healing power of kindness and community. Your support helps us continue sharing uplifting stories that remind us of life's true blessings. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more heartfelt stories. May God bless you and bring peace and joy into your life today and always. Amen.